It all starts when the league owner comes up to you and says, hey, you want to coach your kid? And then we're trapped in this battle of father-coach. We're going to teach you how to manage that today. Hey, welcome back to the Art of Fatherhood. I am Brian LaFauci.
And I'm Patrick Marino.
And today we have Adam LaGreca with us. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
And today we're going to topic the challenge. We're going to, I'm just going to speak in gibberish. Today we are going to tackle the challenge of being a dad and a coach. And that's a space that we have all played in. Right now you're playing in that space a lot.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think you're on boards too and shit.
Yeah,
you're like all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, making decisions.
Were you ever a professional? I mean, I know you worked for a school, right?
Yeah, way to play me down right in the beginning. Was I ever a professional coach?
Yeah.
I was a certified coach. I had my D soccer license.
Why would that be playing you down?
Because I know you're gonna.
No, I'm not like throwing my weight around. I was like, everybody prepare to be impressed.
Right,
for 20 years,
right.
I coached kids for a living. Like, Jesus, like it's always like the first thing. It's like, it gets the girls going at that time. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. Oh, you made like $65,000 a year. Wow. Can you come stay over? Not usually an opening line, but I was just asking out of like.
I actually started coaching. Before my kids got to the age where they were playing. So I started coaching. I was working as a school psychologist, and one of the other school psychologists, he had played I did not play in college. He played in college. But I still love the sport and all that. And he's like, hey, I just got hired to coach this middle school team. Do you want to coach with me? I'm like, yeah, I'd love it. So I started coaching East Greenwich at Cole in East Greenwich at their middle school team. And then from there, went on and coached at the high school level for about 10 years. But in that time period, my kids started playing, and so I was coaching them as well, which is way more challenging than coaching and I coached for a couple competitive clubs.
Since you've been coaching before, did you ever have like the misgivings of like even deciding to do it? Because like my journey is that I played soccer, and then stepped right into coaching, and then took a terrible job out of college, and then we've talked about this in other podcasts, so I'm not going to go crazy with it, and then found out that terrible jobs are terrible for a reason, and I got offered a full-time coaching job, so I jumped at it. I was making more money than I was at my terrible job at the time, and I did that for a very, very long time, but because I'd seen so many dynamics of parent-coach go kind of sideways or wrong, I was like, I freaking want nothing to do with that. So when my kid got to the age where he was like 3 and it was like, all right, well, maybe he's going to start playing, I was like, I want to be. You ever watch you're not a soccer guy, are you?
I am.
Yeah, he played.
Do you watch the,
Adam broke his femur.
My metatarsal. What's the front shin bone?
oh God, we're going to have a bunch of freaking in here.
In a high school soccer game.
That's got to be one of the worst
I
ones
had a picture
ever,
the
right?
exact
There was a
second
picture
it broke.
there was a picture of it happening, which is crazy.
So our coach would always say, you got to go in harder, you're going to get hurt. And it wasn't a dirty play. His knee hit my shin, and in the picture, my shin is like this, and I dropped, and I was like, trainer was there. He's like, dude, get up. I'm like, I've never experienced this pain. He's like, it's broken. There's nothing I can do. It's freaking broken. And it was,
Yeah.
It was gross.
There was an image of it. And that was back before. The crazy part of there being an image of that is that was back way before
photography?
Before.
It's like the 1800s.
It was actually
They had a gas
guy.
thing. You pull the gas thing and it ignites, and that's the kid. Yeah, it was that. It was
Actually,
18,
2 other
20.
kids broke their leg that year. Ryan Curtis and Chris Riley.
Yeah, there was a lot
It's
of.
more of a legend than it is a documented thing.
It was, yeah.
All right, so the reason I brought that up is, like there was like pictures of like Lionel Messi and like Luis Suarez like just freaking with their freaking feet kicked back, watching their kids play, and I was like, that's going to be me. I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm not going to be involved. I'm just going to enjoy it. And then I was still coaching professionally at the time. Professionally coaching youth soccer at the time. And one of the guys I was working with who had kids, he coached all the way through. You know him, played professionally. He coached his kids all the way through college. He was like, so you're going to coach your kid? I was like, well, no, I think I'm just going to sit back and enjoy his, not pressure it and enjoy it and the whole thing. And he was like, knowing what you know right now, you're just going to let one of these schmo volunteer kids volunteer coaches teach your kid how to play soccer when you're one of the best coaches in the area. You're gonna let that guy coach your kid? And I had thought about it a little bit. I was like, well, that's probably, I'm gonna give it a go. You know what I mean? That's how I got into it. Now, did you play past the point where you broke your leg, or like was that the end? Like,
that was because that was my junior year, and then I broke my hand my senior year. So I was always breaking stuff. That's what it seemed like. But no, nothing after high school.
Right. So how old were your kids when you started coaching? Right away?
6.
Right. So
my
right
sons
away.
are going to be 9. Yeah. So they always needed coaches, and I was like, all right.
And you're coaching everything right now.
Basketball, soccer, and baseball.
Nice.
I do have, although I'm obviously a soccer coach based on the conversation, I did coach basketball for a season. That was my other experience.
I tried to coach basketball.
I played basketball like up until middle school. There's not much of a story beyond that.
I was waiting for something else.
That's it.
All right.
And
Did you
No,
break
but
anything?
they needed a coach. It was one of those situations where I walked in there. I was freaking that guy. I had the Bluetooth headset in, and I was on a call.
Buy low, sell high.
Walking in, yeah, exactly. High stock trading. Walking into the sign up for the travel tryout, not the travel, the rec tryouts. I mean, there were 6 or whatever. Walking in, evaluations.
Yep.
They choose the teams, and I got handed. I don't think I wasn't really paying attention to what they were saying, and I got.
I got this. You got voluntold, maybe.
I got handed a clipboard, and then all of a sudden I was evaluating. They're like, "Oh, you got to come back here." I was like, "Why do I come back there?" I was like, "Oh, we're going to pick the teams." I was like, "What do you mean we're going to pick the teams?" So I was like, "You're one of the coaches, right?" I was like, "I guess I am." So I became the basketball coach.
So there's 3 lanes that you can be in, I think. Well, maybe even, I don't know. We'll say 3 lanes. 3 lanes you can be in as a father coach. Lane number 1, you're the coach and your kid sucks. Lane number 2, you're the coach and your kid's one of the better kids on the team. Or lane number 3, you're the coach and you somehow figure out a way to manage this shit where you treat them like every other kid on the team. And that one is so far and that is so difficult. I knew it was time to stop coaching my kids right around the time my daughter turned 13. And she was a decent player. And it got to I remember I can visualize this, the moment. Like there was some play or something that happened and I didn't think she did the right thing. And I tend to be more critical. Like I more lean towards, this is not better because neither one is better. I lean towards more like, okay, you did something I really didn't like. I'm going to pull you. Whereas I wouldn't have pulled another kid off. Right. Or, I was harder. A little harder as opposed to giving them more of the leeway, which is the other way you can go with it, which is, and I remember, but she did something and she should have made a run or whatever. And I called her on it on the sideline. I'm like, you got to make that run. And she turned and looked at me and she screamed at me, like yelled at me. Right. And I'm like, thought to myself, all right, she would never have done that to another coach ever. She would have taken it and, she would just rolled with it and whatever, but she wouldn't have done that. So that's when I was like, okay, the benefit I can have for soccer knowledge, like, and the other coaches that she was getting at this time were good because she was playing club. And I'm like, all right, it's my time to step away. Same thing with my son, right about that, like middle school age. I was like, okay, that was good. But now I'm hurting as much as helping with the fact that like we're learning bad dynamics here. And I want to be your dad. Someone else can teach you the sport from here on out. That's about as far as I got and I knew that I was not the right thing anymore. And there's been opportunities since then to coach the high school team. And I'm not saying this in an ego way, but parents being pleased, can you come, will you coach? Because they need a coach. The boys and the girls have been in situations where they need a coach. And both times I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Not doing that. Like this, that needs to be someone else at this point. Because I don't know if I'll manage it at this age as well as I want to. And I have an awesome relationship with my 17-year-old daughter right now. And I'm not fucking that up just to, but it's recognizing that. Like I look at Bradley, the guy
that coached the national team?
The guy that coached the national team and had his son on the national team.
Yeah, that's nuts.
God bless that relation. That's hard. That's like super hard. you coach 3 sports with your son. Now your son's 9 still,
And
but
it's all rec, so you get a varying degree of people with athletic abilities. But yeah, it does get tough. We always have a pregame talk, whether going to a practice
is
or to
it
the
you
game.
and your son, or you and the whole team have the talk?
No. Going there with my son.
Okay.
Whether it's practice or a game, I'd be like, Rocco, you gotta do me a favor. I know when the sillies start coming up, it feels like you took a Fazuli pill. You got to tone it down because everybody else gets crazy, and we're here. We don't want to waste anybody's time. And then, because laughter and giddiness and horseplay can get kind of contagious.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes he's good, but he's also 8.
Right.
So you got to kind of balance that a little bit. But then sometimes when they get disrespectful, I am a little harder on them. You got to be like, go sit down.
I have a good little dynamic right now where my assistant coach, who I just kind of inherited, he's a really, really good dude. Played soccer as a kid. I don't think he played past high school or whatever, but really, really, really good dude. And we're both hypercritical of our own boys. My boy is 9, right? So to give you an idea of where the dynamic is. But I'm just kind of like, I'm a little easier on his kid as a result, because I know he's gonna be freaking all over his own kid, and I'm just like, all right, like let's make a deal, like you coach my kid.
I love what you're saying,
and I'll coach your kid.
So being younger, I won't coach unless I can get a couple assistants, because the same thing. I could tell my kid to do something, picking his nose, doesn't give a shit, but I'd be like, okay, my other buddy Adam, be like, Adam, take Rocco, and Rocco will snap to attention, and he listens. Then I'll take his son Arlo or whatever, and it kind of,
We used to do, like, when I was in this professionally, right? There was a big. It took a while for us to get to this point, but there was a big push towards this idea of kind of rotation, right? So it'd be like at the beginning of kind of premier club soccer, the idea was, okay, the coach would take all the talented kids and he'd coach them all the way through. But then we kind of took more of a school-based approach, where it was like every few years, because the biggest challenge with being a dad coach is that your voice is a certain voice, that they will never be able to unhear you as their father, right? So that's how they treat you, and that's how they remember everything. And where it's like this idea of a different voice coming in will have a different effect on them as they're listening, right? We talk about listening all the time. So having that diversity of voices is very important for them as they're developing. So what we would do on the professional side, we'd say every 3 or 4 years, at least, if not 2, we want to rotate that coach so that maybe they're hearing a similar thing, because as a club, we have a philosophy of developing the players, but they're hearing a little bit differently. You're also getting that fresh set of eyes on the kid, right? Where it's like, I only think of this kid in this area because I've been with them for 3 years. Whereas you're seeing them brand new, and you're now they're an empty canvas for you. So you're not bringing in your biases. Now that I'm coaching my own kid, I'm bringing my biases from everything he's done since he came out of the womb,
Right.
into that practice or into that game situation. And it definitely makes it there's little things he does on the field that just I just freaking want to just you're all like this. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe my freaking kid fell over again. Or I can't believe he freaking did that. It's such a freaking klutz. I can't believe he freaking did that. You know what I mean? And it's just you have to that's, to me, that's the dynamic, right?
Well, right. I liken it to a parent. So,
being a parent. It's
right,
the same thing.
That's not what I meant to say. It's not what I meant. That didn't come right. I liken it to breathing.
It's almost like having a child.
It's almost like having a child on your team. It's almost like if we did a podcast about. I like it. When I watch my kids play as a parent, I see stuff, and what goes through my mind is all right, man, you should have done that, you should have done that. But what I have is the buffer of the fact that nobody's looking for me to give input, and I can talk myself through it to say, when they come off the court, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to be, I'm going to be supportive, constructive, but I have that. But when you're a coach, you are expected to give feedback and give, right? So by just the nature of the expectation, it's really tough to, in a much shorter period of time, because I got the whole game to process how I'm going to handle them when they come off and let my disappointment go out there, right? If I am disappointed about something or frustrated about something, just let it go and whatever, because that's my own shit, right? It's not theirs. But when you're a coach, you don't have that you don't have that because you're in the mode of giving everyone direction and feedback and coaching. So you have to do that a lot quicker. And I love the idea of I think the assistant piece is really important. As I got later, the last couple of years when I was coaching my daughter, it was that model. I had a really good assistant. We were coaching at a club level. He was a really good coach. So I said, all right, here's the deal. And both our daughters played on team. I'm going to manage tactically, say whatever you want to any kid. But if it's something like that we really need to get through to your daughter, I got it. Just tell me, I'll take it. If I need my daughter to do something different, I'm going to tell you, and you take it. And that when we had that, and that made it much easier to just strip the. So I think to our listeners, the key thing is you need that other person there.
Yeah, I think
you need the balancing act
support system.
Yeah.
In my case, I definitely got lucky because it's just a local travel team. So
Right.
It's like the other dad just happened to be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that not working all the time, but I mean, I think that for me, and this is probably different, right? For me, like I have trouble with having assistant coaches. Like it's not my ballpark because for 20 years I did it professionally and I barely had anybody telling me what to do. So like for me, it was hard to have an assistant, but I'm getting better at it. I think for most other, kind of standard volunteer coaches, I think it's good to have that. You don't want to get to the point where there's too many people. Like you hate like the dad sideline where it's like four dads are just freaking shouting at all the kids. You're just like, all right, well, like there has to be. Oh, is that his sideline?
Listen, we can get into. We're not going to get into parent suck discussion. That's a different podcast.
All right, okay. No, I mean, like I'm a big believer.
Sideline parents are the worst.
I'm a big,
Especially when they don't really know what they're talking about.
They usually don't know
you're
what they're talking about.
Oh man, we worked on this in practice, but exactly the opposite of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And now you're telling you.
Don't listen to that dad. Like you tell the kids, hey, your dad, don't listen to him.
Right. Well, the problem with the parent sideline, right, is that not the
we said we weren't going to talk about it, but we're
one
going.
of the challenges. Well, I mean, I'm gonna bring it back to parent coaching.
No, you're not.
One of the challenges of the parent sideline is the kids are conditioned to respond to their parents' voice. So it doesn't matter how many of them are shouting.
Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
And next thing you know, they're going right by. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Number one piece in coach of advice is just to stand there like this. What are you doing?
Oh yeah,
that's the best coaching there is. But that's what happens, right? They hear their own parent talk and they lose attention on what they're supposed to be focused on.
Yeah.
So there's ways of addressing that. But as the parent coach, you have to be very cognizant of that because you can do the same thing to your kid, right? It's like you really want them as a coach to say, like, we worked on this stuff in practice. Now your job is to execute. It's not to interrupt their process too frequently. And as a parent coach, because you have these expectations, you have all this experience with them. You're just like, again, like I can feel myself clinched up watching my kid make mistakes. And you just want to freaking scream out and say,
you want to
like,
Bobby Knight the situation.
You have to give them, you have to give them almost a little bit of extra space and allow them to make the decision without you. Because as soon as you open your mouth, they're conditioned to make that reaction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. I think that's really important. And I think as young kids, there is a benefit here. I don't want to just spend all the time on the negative because there is a benefit. There's bonding. If you can manage it well and have the pregame conversations. The other thing that I use with my kids, and now that they're older, I don't use this as much, but they were younger, I did this all, especially like those early teenage years, is contracts. I did this with them with cell phones, like where we sat down and said, all right, we're going to do a contract for...
I have a contract with my cell phone company. It's hard to get out of.
It's hard to get out of.
It's freaking AT&T, those bastards.
So we would draw up a combined contract where like, hey, this is what I expect out of you. What do you expect out of me as the dad? And that I did that with coaching, right? So I would say, okay, this is an interesting dynamic, right? You get it. Like I'm your dad, but I'm also your coach. And there's times. So what do you need from me? And it's just like, what do you need me to do? All right, I need you not to yell at me all the time. Blah, blah. All right, fair enough. I'm going to make the contract that I'm going to do my best to do this. Here's what I need from you, right? Sign it. And then literally like make that written. And it sounds silly, but it's really, it gives you a grounding point to go back to say, both people are kind of agreeing to break the mold a bit and break out of the role and do something like a little bit different. Is it the end all be all? No. But does it it gives a framework, right, of expectation, and it puts you on equal ground. Like, hey, I'm just not telling you to do something in this dynamic that's a little different. I'm saying I'll do something that you need me to do too, as long as it's reasonable, right? So, don't yell at me more than you do the other kids.
That's the hard part,
yeah,
because your parent role comes over, and
right?
you're like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
but you don't say son of a bitch, but you're just thinking. It's like we went over this, especially when they're getting unruly. That's where I have a problem.
Yeah,
because like I said, they're 8 and 9, and like
yeah, it's hard, and they're going to be more liberal with you because they're comfortable with you,
and they know
right?
how to push your buttons.
Yeah, and they know where the left. Whereas to the other kids, you're almost a stranger, right? And there's a little more fear. Remember,
yes.
A little more fear. Whereas those.
I have one of the better athletes on my little travel soccer team right now. Local travel, right? So this isn't like competitive.
Yeah.
Local travel soccer where we're not even like keeping standings yet. But one of the better athletes. The other sports, he plays every sport. He's one of the best athletes in town. But the mom actually told me she appreciated me because when he does play for the other coaches, he's playing for people who he grew up in their neighborhood. He knows them like super, super well. So I am that stranger.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a little bit of a different respect level. He doesn't talk to me the same way as he talks to the other people who he's freaking seen forever.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the dynamic with the parent coach that you don't get from like the club soccer. It's like one of the reasons why you do club sports is like to give them that, like you said, you're passing them on to this other person who's going to have this different level of authority and this different level of respect than I could possibly have now as a dad. Or maybe the game has passed you, not, you know what I mean? Like maybe the game has started at a different level. They've gone beyond me.
Yeah.
But that's like really hard. That's a balance, I think, is like, like that's the conversation I'm going to have with myself at some point. You probably will have to have as well. It's like, do you keep doing this? The bonding is awesome.
It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have given it up, throughout that whole time.
Yeah. And it was really important for me, like when we got separated. I think that's the reason why I did the basketball. To be honest, was like the reason why I got given the clipboard. It wasn't just out of the blue. I signed up to be an assistant.
Yeah,
and I would not have done that except for the divorce.
Right, you just wanted to have.
Because you have that extra time, and that's something you and your child have together. That it's special, and and you have that time together. Just you two, and then with the other kids on the team. But
it's just amazing. It is an amazing. I had it with my dad. My dad coached our soccer teams too. In fact, he coached them all the way through. Like we have these amazing. So remember Brendan? Yeah, who came in like the Brendan. Fall back to the MMA guy who was on our podcast a few podcasts ago. But we have a story because he was coaching it. My dad coached the district select team because there was no one to coach it, so he coached it, and he didn't play soccer or anything like that. But like he coached it, but Brendan didn't make the team. It's like that's always been like a hey, Mr. Marino. Like remember when you cut me when I was like 14 or whatever. Like Brendan was good enough for the team, but like that, my dad didn't know him.
Yeah, it's
like we were all like we'd all been playing for the team for a couple of years, and like here Brendan comes in brand new, and then like my dad didn't take him the first time. But those stories are amazing stories, right? And I wonder if there's Bob Bradley stories like that. You know what I mean? Coach this kid all the way through, and like now it's like on the national team. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty spectacular.
Right. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Pretty intense. I never heard an interview between the two of them to know like how if they've been public about what the experience was like, or I've never heard that.
Right.
I don't know if you have, but it is interesting. I remember growing up, my dad actually coached for a different high school than my sister and I went, and he coached girls soccer, and so it happened.
He coached against your sister?
The final year, they were in the same division. So they were D1, I think, the final year, and my dad's team had just moved up to D1. And they played against each other. But the other thing that kind of got me to a point where I said, all right, I think I want to move away from this is if you have more than one kid, you end up missing a lot of,
That was a big factor for me.
Yeah, if I coach the high school for one of my kids, I'm not going to see any of the other ones too. So as I got older, it naturally was like, this is a good time to become a spectator for all those reasons combined in that.
Maybe we should get into some advice stuff. So Adam, now you've had a chance to, what are the three sports?
Basketball, soccer, and baseball.
All right.
Yeah.
What would you say would be like a good thing you've learned? I mean, I like the contract.
That was fantastic. I don't think Rocco would give a shit about it though.
Well, you know what? Like, at what age was the contract?
Like probably 10, 11,
Yeah, so
12
we're probably a
in
year or
that
two
range.
away from that with 9-year-olds.
I
Right?
may not be coaching until it's rec.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have a pretty good foundation on soccer. Basketball I'm okay with. Baseball I really know pretty well. But it's more just to get the kids involved and make sure. My biggest thing is I want everybody to play.
Right.
So, you know,
Yep.
I don't care how good this kid is. I remember in basketball, I'd be like, why are you taking the kids? Would be, why are you taking so-and-so out? I'm like, because we're subbing. Everybody plays. This isn't a travel team. This is town rec. This is here to have fun. You know, some games we lost 11-3. You know what I mean? Some games we won 11-3. But it's all
Right.
to have the kids get in there and run. But yeah, my philosophy: everybody plays.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm involved too, is just because like even the older boys who I wasn't involved with at all when they were playing, like you just see these terrible experiences that they had. Like, well, I'm going to come in and at least be the good experience.
Well,
You know
yes.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
at least you have some control over it, where it's
Yeah.
like if you're giving up the experience to the other people, you might end up with somebody who's fantastic, like Adam, or you might end up with somebody who's like, you know, who's terrible, who's just like, who's either bad at communicating or doesn't let the kids play. Or like I had a kid, you know, freaking when Beckham was 8, my freaking 18-year-old, when he was 8, at the local baseball level, they wouldn't let him bat. Like, oh, you got to bunt.
Yeah,
Because he wasn't great at batting yet, so they wouldn't let him swing.
No.
It's like, freaking, are you serious? Like, you let this kid
Yeah,
swing?
it's
He's
horrible.
freaking 8
It's
years
horrible.
old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's what are we doing this for?
No.
They wanted to win. Like, they wanted the bunts because he's fast, and it's like, all right, well, you freaking
Well,
let him swing
that's for the
bat.
competitive leagues or
Yeah.
the travel leagues. Rec is all about who gives a shit. Does that kid come off the field with a smile on his face? That's all that matters.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's really the. So I always get a big bucket of sunflower seeds,
Yep.
especially for baseball. The big bucket of bubble gum. There you go. Throw some out. You know, just have. This is what I don't want to see a rapper in the dugout though. You know, and it's have the kids smile. That's what it's there for. And it's just
Yeah, and maintaining that as an approach is fantastic. Where it becomes more difficult, though, is I think what was more challenging for me is when it started to become when my kids were like, all right, we're going to go play for this club, and now I'm coaching this competitive club, and now the expectation is win.
yes,
Right.
but that's
And-
totally different.
Right. And now you still have to manage that dynamic of, you know, which is what it would have been like at the high school level if I had done that. It's, you know, there's a lot of pressure to win at the high school level, and how much playing time people get is heavily scrutinized at the high school level. And so if if your kid's getting a lot of time, and I've seen other coaches and kind of watched how they manage it, and sometimes you can't help but have an opinion, right, about it, and realize, they're definitely favoring this one, and everyone can see it, and that impacts the kid too sometimes, and you don't see that directly, but if all the kids are looking at it, knowing that little Johnny is getting all the playing time and they're not that good, then all the kids will react to little Johnny.
Oh,
in
no,
that way.
I struggled with that with basketball this year.
Yeah.
This is the first year they've actually played, competitive games, organized games. But it's all about skill level, and it didn't matter how many times we would try passing drills. There was just some kids who could dribble the ball, and there was some ball hogs, but there was no way of saying, stop taking the shot. You got to pass. That was a challenge for me,
Right?
Because they would be pissed that the other kid would not pass. So you got these 4 other kids just kind of, just running around the court.
Yep. Yeah, it's a constant battle. I mean, my big thing is the contract. My other big thing is the assistant. I think you need balance on the sideline when you're doing it. It helps with the dynamic, right? And it allows you to kind of have someone there if you find, and it's being reflective too. It's being reflective and just being able to say, all right, am I reacting? Like, do I notice I'm reacting to my child much differently than I'm reacting to the other kids? And what am I going to do about it?
Yeah, you have
and sometimes you just got to be systematic about
that's
what
why
you're
the
gonna do about it.
that's why the assistant can be good too, because you can actually, if you have a good relationship with the assistant, you could be like look, am I crazy here? Right? Talking to the assistant, I'm like, am I being too hard? Like, am I doing it right? Like asking that question. The other bits of advice I would give is just like similar to what we would have told our own parents, which is like, try and keep it on the field, right? This is about enjoyment. This is about development. And if they're driven, they're going to be driven. They're going to ask you, but like, don't use the car as an interview. You know, it's not the post-game freaking press conference, right? It's like, I mean, it's like, did you have fun? Do you want to go get McDonald's? Like, those are the freaking questions you're going to ask.
You want to go to Newport Creamery, get a cab, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's not, hey, remember when the ball was freaking on the right and you freaking didn't do this thing, and you're just like, that's the wrong way to approach it. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, did you have fun? When they get a little bit older and they want your feedback, they'll ask for it if you have that relationship with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's, and especially when you're the parent coach, you kind of want to do the coaching thing on the field, and then the rest of the time you just,
when it's over, it's over.
You're just dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and you can have a good relationship. You can ask them the questions like, do you want to keep doing this? I don't want you to play just because of me. Those are kind of my guilty things. Like, my kid now is a soccer player. Is it just because I've been pushing him? You know what I mean? Like, am I pushing him? I don't think I am, but I try not to constantly, because you don't want to overwhelm him. But like, you know, don't do this because of me. Like, if you don't want to play, like, that's fine. I don't have to coach. Like, we'll do something else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to do this.
Yeah, we talk a lot in other podcasts about driving our kids in lanes because there are lanes.
Right.
And
it's
we're
like,
all naturally going to do that. I
mean, and we make the false statement that we don't care.
But we do.
Of course we care.
Yeah.
Right? It's
I don't care what you
exactly.
But he's got to do something. My biggest thing is, I don't care if you
have
want
to
play
do something.
learn an instrument. You're not going to sit there and play Xbox all day or stare at an iPad. You have to do something.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting our kids out is important.
Yeah, so I love the contract. I love the approach of the environment. I think you're creating the environment where the kids are having fun. They're all playing. That's, I think, a big reason to step up. Be the volunteer, because if you don't step up, someone else with bad intentions might step up.
Yeah.
And
well, maybe not even bad intentions. They just don't know what they're doing, and it just creates.
I don't think a lot of it's there's the wrong way of putting it.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
The wrong ideas.
Right.
Because they're just the parent coach and they don't know.
Yep.
Right. The guy who told my kid to just bunt every time he got up,
That would drive me crazy.
he wasn't a bad person.
That would drive me crazy.
He was just
He's a fucking idiot.
He just he didn't get it. Yeah. He's just, but you don't want the idiots to be involved, right? Like, you step up, otherwise you're just ceding the lane to the idiots.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay, here you go, guys, you take over. I don't want to be doing it.
But that's also the blessing in sports. It's like, okay, it's all about failure. Sports is all about failure. How you react to it, and how you make yourself better. So I can't hit a ball. So, Dad, we throw him a couple extra balls. You know, it prepares you for life, because you're not going to win at everything.
Right.
And that's what you got to let him fail as much as it hurts.
Sometimes you're going to go and try to sell and get a rejection. And
That's
you
right.
got to be able to get. I don't know if maybe we should talk about that in another podcast. This is good stuff. Good stuff. Coach your kids, but do so with some systematic approach to make it a good experience. And remember, they're there to have fun. Okay? Break yourself from the dad coach role.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I'm Bradley Fauci.
Patrick Marino.
Adam LaGreca.
Till next time.
Thank you.